headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
Right then, let's talk to Richard Taylor, who's a political commentator and broadcaster. We're going to talk about the Freedom Convoy in Canada, specifically Ottawa, the capital of Canada. Richard, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for making the time this Saturday morning. How are you?
I'm very well. Looking forward to the rugby this afternoon, more importantly. There's a big game on as we're playing Ireland, as you know.
Yeah, you'll be supporting Ireland, I'm sure.
Very doubtful, Peter, very doubtful. But I don't fancy our chances. Ireland are looking very strong at the moment.
Are you going to be watching at home? Or are you going to the stadium? What are you doing?
No, I'm gonna be out at the pub with my mates this afternoon, enjoying the game. So after I've been on with you, I'm going out, we're going to have some food, and then we're heading to the pub then to watch the rest of the game. And I doubt I'll be back on TV or radio anytime this evening.
Probably a good idea we got you before the game, Richard. Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, I actually went to school with the former captain of Ireland, Rory Best. Did you ever see him play?
I've seen him, yes, when I was younger, of course, because I'm in my 40s, I'm 47,
No.
so I've been watching rugby a very long time. Yes, I was brought up, being a patriotic Welshman, born and bred in a place called Llanelli, which is West Wales. We were spoon-fed with rugby, literally. It was a religion in school. So yes, I grew up watching many of the great rugby celebrities that you've mentioned, Rory Best and many others as well.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, Rory Best and I actually did PE lessons together. And I mean, he was a bit better at a few things like, I don't know, running, catching, stuff like that, throwing rugby balls, things like that.
So
but
you didn't fancy your prospects as a future rugby player?
I
then,
mean,
Peter, did you?
I think, me personally, I was probably destined for the media, but I do think Rory, without my guidance and probably inspiration, I doubt he would have been a once in a generation, amazing international rugby star with caps and honours to his name. No, he's a great man, and actually I know his wife as well, Jodie. They live near me in Northern Ireland. They're great people, and Rory's actually just done a big charity walk as well. But listen, we're not here to talk about Rory Best, great man that he is. We're here to talk about the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa, and this is very dramatic developments, isn't it? Because I remember when Justin Trudeau was elected, everyone thought, oh, he's so wonderful, look at his lovely hair, look at his funny socks, isn't he going to usher in a wonderful liberal era of Canada? Isn't that amazing? But actually, these truckers, who, let's remember, are the backbone of our economy, are saying, hold on a second, if you're going to force us to get vaccinated before we can even cross the border into Canada, actually, no, hold on a second, we're going to have a protest here. So what do you make of what's going on? Explain it to us.
Yeah, well, I think it's extraordinary to see that it's almost like a global protest taking place right now, Peter, not just in Canada. The Canadian truckers have inspired people around the world. It's happening in Finland, in Helsinki. It's happening in Germany right now, in Canberra, in Australia. Here in the UK, there are protests going on, convoys happening today, believe it or not, that have been inspired by these Canadian truckers. And it's a perfect example to remind people that when any government mandates or decrees and, leads by a regime that really, in my opinion, is tyrannical, people rise up and people want their freedoms. This isn't about just the efficacy of a vaccine. This is about people's rights and people's freedoms to choose what they want to do with their bodies. That's the bottom line.
I agree with you, Richard. And as anybody who's listened to this programme before will know, I've had both my vaccines, I've had my booster. I want to encourage people. I want to persuade people. I want to say, look at the science, the vaccine works. I don't want to force people. I don't want to threaten their job being lost. I don't want to do anything. I want people to make a choice to get the vaccine. But when you're forcing people, and when you're saying you can't get it, you can't even cross the border in your truck, that's a bad thing. But I wonder, Richard, whether you think this form of protest, which is bringing Ottawa to a standstill and is actually causing serious trouble for a lot of people, is that the right way to protest, do you think?
Well, I think it is, because the right to protest is part of our democracy. And of course, we're seeing Western democracies now being threatened by governments across the world, not just here, in the UK. We've seen it with Boris Johnson. In my opinion, we're seeing it in Canada, in parts of America. And I think people have fed up of politicians decreeing things and taking away their civil liberties and freedoms for which people died and gave their lives for. And I think that there is this sense that people are angry at politicians. And let's remind ourselves, they've been there for over a week now in Ottawa. And Justin Trudeau at the start of this went into hiding. He said, and I don't know if it's true or not, he said he had COVID and disappeared. He went missing in action. And now he's using the Ottawa Chief of Police, who's made a statement saying to his police officers, if you were found aiding or helping any of the protesters, then you will be prosecuted. The GoFundMe page There was $9 million was raised to support the truckers and this protest happening in Canada. And the GoFundMe page have said that it was against their terms of reference and conditions of terms of conditions. And
but
so
some of them, Richard, are breaking the law. Surely you've got to be... I mean, the police have to be the force of law and order, even if they personally don't agree with the law.
Well, let's talk about the GoFundMe, for example. You know, they were quick enough to bail out protesters who were violent at the Black Lives Matter protests, and they never withdrew the funding from that. This is £9 million that have been given to support them has been taken away, and it was going to be given to charities of their choice. They've just, in the last 2 hours, done a massive U-turn on at the GoFundMe page and said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to refund the money back to those who gave it, because they've been boycotted on social media. And let's be honest, Peter, if it wasn't for social media, because it doesn't get covered on mainstream media, thank God for talk radio, the home of common sense, where it does get covered. These are incredible scenes, because it reminds all of us that the power is never with government. It's always with the people. And we elect those government officials in the first place. And when they lead and govern by decree and not by consent or will of the people, this is what we're going to see. And we're going to see more of this around the world. And I believe that it is the right of people to protest. And so they should, because mandating vaccines, to me, is completely wrong. It's immoral, unethical, and it's just wrong.
Thank you to the texter who says the Prime Minister of Canada is a trucking clown. Interesting. I mean, you talk about the will of the people there as well, Richard, and you speak a lot of sense, and I agree with a lot of what you're saying. But Ottawa residents have also expressed frustration over the demonstrations, complaining about constant noise and impact on local businesses, public services, unruly and aggressive behaviour. I mean, not everybody at these protests has been entirely peaceful, have they?
Well, look, I can only go by what I've seen on social media, Peter, like many of your listeners and viewers, and yourself included. You know, we can only get what we've been given, and I've not seen those images or pictures of violence. Some of the things that Trudeau has mentioned, saying, you know, they're walking around and it's violent and they're racist and all that kind of stuff. You always get that in protests. You're going to have a small faction of people that are going to do something that is, you know, not in line with what the protest is about. That happens in every single protest. But let's look at the majority of what's going on. These are hard-working, honest Canadian people that are standing up for their rights. And the best way to solve this problem is for Trudeau to come out and say, OK, we will not mandate vaccines for workers. We'll get rid of it, and they'll all go home. That's the answer. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Richard Taylor, political commentator and broadcaster, thank you very much indeed. Obviously, I'll be supporting Ireland later, but I hope you have an amazing day, and the inevitable, terrible defeat of Wales in the rugby isn't too bad there, Richard. I'm only joking.
Good talk. Hot talk.
Bold talk. Talk radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.